a quite unimpressive sound. They make little chirping noises.
Yeah, I've heard them at the safari park.
That's the reason why if you've ever watched a movie and you've seen a picture of an eagle and heard a really dramatic sound, that's from a red-tailed hawk, not an eagle. They want to make it more dramatic. Okay, so this is Franklin over here on the right-hand side, and he's a bald eagle, obviously. So Raphael's going to come drop his rat and mouse off at his stump right there. And he knows when it's time to eat. During the day, he usually hides in the bushes, but when he knows that the food's going to be there, he kind of like runs like this towards the front. So here we're feeding him rats and mice. In the wild, bald eagles actually eat fish as the main component of their diet. However, for some odd reason that we don't quite understand, Franklin refuses to eat fish. He's just really picky. I guess because of his extended stay in captivity, he's kind of become like a gourmet, I guess you could say. And he only wants red meat, so he only eats rats, that's all he'll eat. So they're specially adapted for catching fish, actually. So if you look at his feet and his talons, they're really powerful, really sharp talons. Their grip strength is almost 200 pounds per square inch. That's how strong they are. And they also have really small little hooks in the bottom of their feet that will penetrate the slime coating of the fish and provide a really strong, secure grip, so that way when that slippery fish is trying to wiggle out of their talons, they have a strong grip on it. They will occasionally also eat other animals like mammals or scavenge if there's nothing else available. So that coloration that you see with the white head and the white tail doesn't normally appear until these birds are about 4 to 5 years of age, and it's basically a sign of maturity, so it advertises their readiness to breed to other birds. When they're juveniles, they're a really dull brownish color all over. So does anybody have a guess about how much he weighs?
50 pounds. 25 pounds.
He actually only weighs about 6 pounds. Yeah. And that's because all of his bones and feathers are hollow. If they weren't hollow, he'd be too heavy to fly.
Oh my.
Their wingspan is also about 7 to 7.5 feet, depending on if they're a male or a female. Usually, for most birds of prey, these included, the females are about 25 to 30% bigger than the males. So as you can see, he'll eat the whole entire animal, including the bones and the fur, and then they'll just regurgitate the fur in the form of a pellet because they can't digest it. He has that razor-sharp beak designed for ripping and tearing flesh. So once they catch their prey, they'll use that point of the beak to get into its head where they'll eat the brain, and then they'll eviscerate their prey and they'll eat the guts next. So they'll eat the brains and the guts first because that's the most nutritious part of the animal. That way if a coyote or some other creature comes and chases them away, they've gotten the most benefit from their meal. So you might wonder what Franklin is doing here. All of our birds have been either injured or imprinted on. Unfortunately for Franklin, a very cruel person decided to shoot him in the wing. So he had to have about half of his left wing amputated so he can't fly. And that's how he ended up here. Bald eagles are considered an occasional visitor here to San Diego, so if you're lucky you might see a nesting pair every once in a blue moon up around Lake Henshaw or Lake Cuyamaca. They're much more common up north where there are a lot more lakes and hence more fish. Their highest population density is up in Alaska, but they're also fairly common around the northwestern Pacific states and also in Canada as well. Sadly, these birds at one point were on the endangered species list, and this was mainly due to the pesticide DDT, and the pesticide made their eggshells so weak and brittle that they would break when the female eagles would incubate them. And because of that, their numbers plummeted. But thankfully, once a few scientists realized just how damaging this pesticide was to the environment, it became illegal to use, and due to conservation efforts and because that pesticide is now banned, these birds have made quite the comeback. They're no longer considered an endangered species, so they're a success story. They're excellent hunters. Their eyesight's about, on average, 8 times better than a human's.
Does he know, how did he train him to step away from the gate when somebody's coming in so that he knows come over here and wait. He waited until that one was served, and the guy went out.
He's not trained for that. He just
He just does it
yeah, he
automatically.
kind of sees. Honestly, they see us as predators. They see us as really big, scary predators.
Okay.
So they try to avoid us. So he's just kind of trying to avoid us,
Okay.
waiting until we put his food down, and then he goes eats when we leave.
Okay.
How much does the one in the adjacent cage weigh?
The golden one over there,
Yes,
he weighs about 10 pounds.
10 pounds.
Mhm. So Franklin is about 17 years old or so, which is pretty old for a bald eagle. In the wild, they might live about 10 to 15 years maximum. But in captivity, the longest one that we have record of lived to be over 40 years old. So they live longer in captivity because even when they grow old and they may not be able to hunt as well anymore, we continue to provide them with food and also protect them from predators into their old age. So they live much longer in captivity. Yeah. He's kind of out of balance because he's missing his wings, so.
Now, when does